The Cavaliers' offense was efficient last season due to a league-leading 734 corner three-point shot attempts in 201,617. Gregory Shamuskati images for a team such as the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have made 3 straight NBA Finals, winning it all in 2016, they sure did make a lot of changes this offseason. Alba point guard Isaiah Thomas and 3-and-D wing Jay Crowder were acquired from the Boston Celtics for LeBron James' star sidekick Kyrie Irving. Former league MVP Derrick roused the focal point for the Chicago Bulls for 7 seasons before a year with the New York Knicks, signed a 1-year, $2.1 million deal to play with the Cavs as a role player. 3-time champion and 12-time All-Star Dwyane Wade reunites with James after a buyout agreement with the Bulls facilitated his signing with Cleveland in September. On paper, LeBron James is surrounded by more talent than at any point in his previous 14 seasons, which is saying something considering last year's squad had the highest defensive rating of any team James has been on since he broke into the league in 2003. But the new additions don't appear to be a good fit to either take this offense to another level or even sustain it as one of the most potent in the NBA. The Cavaliers' offense was efficient last season due to a league-leading 734 corner three-point shot attempts, 147 more than the second-ranked Miami Heat. Corner threes are worth 1.15 points per shot, the third most efficient attempt after a trip to the free throw line, 1.52, and shots from the restricted area, 1.21. And if you are open in the corner, James is going to get you the ball. According to NBA.com's John Schumann, James set a record for most assists on corner threes last season, 162, 66 more than anyone else had in 201,617. So anyone coming to Cleveland should be proficient in either making or setting up these attempts. Yet that isn't the case for many of the new players wearing a Cavaliers uniform in 201,718. In his career, Wade has taken less than 10% of his shots from behind the arc, where the NBA, by comparison, has attempted a three-point shot on 24% of field goal attempts since 200,304. Wade's first season in the league, even in his 4 seasons with James as a member of the Miami Heat, Wade took less than 9% of his attempts from behind the arc. He has attempted just 38 corner threes over the last 2 seasons, and his arrival sends 3-year starting shooting guard J.R. Smith to the bench. Smith led the team in three-point attempts per game, 6.6, and made a respectable 35.1% from behind the arc. League average is 35.4%. Almost a third of those attempts were corner threes, which he hit 41.3% of the time. Wade not only made fewer three-point attempts than Smith, he took 6.3 mid-range shots per game in 201,617, the 11th most attempts by a player last season. Mid-range shots are among the least efficient in the NBA, as players score on average 0.8 points per attempt. Thomas was on some MVP shortlists at the end of the 201,617 season, but most of his offense was created at the rim or at the top of the three-point arc. Just 1 out of every 7 of his three-point attempts, 13.4%, came from the corners. Thomas did show he can play off the ball, a skill set coach Tyrone Lue needs when he rests James. Thomas had an effective field goal percentage of 60.9 as a spot-up shooter during the 201,617 regular season and was in the top 8% of players for scoring efficiency, 1.22 points per possession on these plays. Unfortunately, a hip injury suffered in the regular season and exacerbated in the playoffs rendered him unavailable for the start of the 201,718 season, opening the door for Rose to start at point guard, and that's not ideal. Rose's three-point shooting hit a career low last season, 21.7%, and he hasn't hit over 30% of his threes since the 201,314 season. Rose's value as an NBA player is in doubt as it is. His inefficiency on offense and defense placed him 51st among 82 point guards per ESPN's Real Plus Minus, and since missing the entire season with a torn anterior cruciate ligament in 201,213, Rose hasn't ranked in the top half of the league's most efficient scorers, per Synergy Sports. In fact, he hasn't been worth more than a replacement player per Basketball Reference's VORP. To make the fit in Cleveland even worse, Rose scored just 0.8 points per possession when used as a spot-up shooter last season, with an effective field goal percentage of 39.2%, placing him in the bottom 20% of the league. He scored just 1.07 points per possession on cuts to the basket, also ranking him in the bottom 20%. Rose was even worse on his catch-and-shoot opportunities, 9 for 42 overall and a woeful 4 for 19 on wide-open attempts. On the bright side, Crowder fits perfectly with what Cleveland tries to do on offense. He was successful on more than 46% of his three-point attempts from the corner and scored 1.35 points per possession last year on open threes off the catch and shoot, placing him in the top 20% of the NBA. That skill set helped the 26-year-old boost Boston's offensive rating from 103 to 112.3 points per 100 possessions when he was on the court, roughly the difference between the offensive output of the Golden State Warriors and the New Orleans Pelicans last season. Crowder will give the Cavaliers much-needed help on defense, too. He contested 7.1 shots per game, almost 4 of those 3.6 behind the three-point line, which would place him 4th and 1st, respectively, among Cleveland's defenders. He was also a key cog in Boston's transition defense, which ranked 9th overall for fewest points allowed per possession 1.07 and 6th in the percentage of turnovers generated 14 per 100 possessions against last season. Cleveland ranked 22nd defensively, with transition defense being their Achilles heel. No team allowed more points per possession in transition and only 6 clubs allowed a higher frequency of transition possessions. In addition, Crowder's presence slides Kevin Love to center, which in turn moves Tristan Thompson, a starter on the past 3 finals teams, to the bench. Though that creates some depth on Cleveland's roster, expect Love's to endure some growing pains in transition to center. His net rating per 48 minutes was plus 9.6 last season as a power forward but dropped to plus 1.3 at center. Thompson's net rating per 48 minutes was plus 2.7. Viewed another way, the Cavaliers played like a 51-win team last season with Love at power forward but just a 44-win team with him at center. Part of this could be due to a small sample size. Just 18% of Love's minutes played were as a center last season, yet it's worth noting his effective field goal percentage and points per 48 minutes both suffered in these situations. One of the most used small ball lineups from last season featuring Love with James, Irving, Smith and Iman Shumpert 36 minutes managed a net rating of minus 5.9, on par with the 28-win Philadelphia 76ers. Any team with James is going to have high expectations. The latest odds from the Westgate Las Vegas Superbook have Cleveland as the second choice behind the Warriors to win the 2018 NBA title 4-1 odds, but if the team can't operate with the same efficiency as it did last season, either Cleveland will have to make more changes at the trade deadline or face the end of their reign of the Eastern Conference. More NBA preview. Is Kyrie Irving just a sidekick? Is DeMarcus Cousins not a winner? 5 players with labels to shed. Russell Westbrook's Thunder was a one-man band. Now he's conducting an all-star ensemble. The top 100 players for the 201,718 season. Future top 100 NBA players. 10 potential breakout candidates not on this year's list. Top 100 NBA players. Which guys rose and fell the furthest from last year? The Clippers will miss the playoffs, and 9 other bold predictions for the 201,718 season.